Happy off-season, hockey fans. We're in the middle of it. We're halfway through the off-season, and it is my pleasure to welcome to this fan questionnaire our new head coach, Brett McLean, who is currently up in St. Paul, kicking off the opening day of development camp. And so normally I'm the one who gets to brainchild the questions. I get to ask the questions, but Brett, you and I are going to have plenty of time to do that during the season. So we thought during the off season, let's get some fan questions in here. Let's talk to our fans and let's see what they're curious to know about you and about the future of the Iowa Wild, Brett. So we asked, they answered, and now I'll ask you what they asked us to ask you, if that makes any sense. But first and foremost, Brett, looking forward to talking with you today. And my only question of this questionnaire will be, how is development camp been going so far? How's day one? I know you're pretty early on into it.
Yeah, so far so good. Just kind of meeting everybody right now. All the players got in, so that's step one. Development staff obviously feels good about that. There's some stress for them on that level, but everybody's here and checked in. And, for the Iowa Wild, I guess what's really exciting about today and last night was it's the first time our staff was able to get together, and so that's really really exciting for myself and for all of us to kind of get to know each other and to start planning for the new season.
Let's get to the heavy hitting questions. We had a lot of great responses, a lot of people who clearly didn't just throw flippant questions out there, but took some time and wanted to get some earnest answers from you, Brett, which I know you will give. So we'll start with Caden Krebs, who wants to know, what are you most excited for this season, and what are your thoughts on being the Iowa Wild bench boss?
So most excited about just working with all the great prospects we have in the Wild organization and having them in Iowa. There's so many names I could throw out there, and obviously Minnesota Wild training camp will have a lot to determine as far as who they are. But if we see some faces like obviously Wallstead again and Lambos, Spacek, Johansson, Hunt, just to name a few, if depending on where Beckman and Walker are, whether they're up or they're down with us. And so really, really excited to see these players and work with them and watch them grow. Mikey Milne had a very good first year and looking to see what he can do in his second season pro. So that for myself is the most exciting part of this job. And so really, really looking forward to that. What was the second part of the question?
The second part of the question was, I guess, what are your thoughts on being the Iowa Wild bench boss? Maybe more of a personal flair there, and your thoughts on being it.
Really looking forward to it. Absolutely loved my time, and my family did as well, our time with the Iowa Wild previously. So can't wait to get back there. We have such good fans, and to now be the head coach is obviously it's a huge honor, and really looking forward to just kind of putting my own stamp on things and creating the type of workplace and the environment for our players to come to and really thrive. And hopefully that shows on the ice and we get some great results for our great fans.
Joe Booley wrote, talent at the AHL level is always tough with players graduating to the NHL, injuries, call-ups, or players still waiting to turn pro. How do you build off last season to find success in the postseason for Iowa fans, but also remain focused on development while balancing fluctuations in talent? He's a journalist written like one, huh?
Yeah, well, yeah, there's a little bit to unpack in that question, but no, it's a great question. And that's really the unique challenge and the unique part of being a coach in the American Hockey League is balancing the development of the prospects, which is mandate number one. We are the Minnesota Wild's affiliate, so our number one role is to get those players to their potential and hopefully helping the big club win hockey games. But of course, we want to win games along the way. And again, as the question alluded to, the lineup just fluctuates hourly, daily, minute by minute. And that's also the part of the job that I and that we love, is that it is so different each and every day, and it is such a challenge, and it's not always about just coaching the prospects. It's also about maybe calling someone up from the Heartlanders and the ECHL and seeing what they can give to our team and try to help us win a hockey game that night. That's the really fun part about coaching at the American Hockey League level. So again, lots of different elements to it. And the beauty of the job is that you go into work each and every day, and you really don't know what your lineup's gonna look like. And as a coach, it helps you grow. As a team, it certainly helps you grow. But then one of my big beliefs is to win at the AHL level, it also has to be your young players that are gonna push you through in the playoffs. As the question started off with asking about the playoffs and having success in the Calder Cup playoffs, is that I really believe that, yes, of course you have your veterans that are very, very important, but your young players, those are the ones that have a real opportunity to improve a lot, and they're going to improve by a greater percentage throughout the season. So to win later on in the season and in the playoffs in the American Hockey League, it's those young players who then have to kind of start push through and really start to lead your team.
You brought up Jesper Volstead earlier, Brett, and Nick Hulst wants to know, what is your philosophy on goalie rotation, regular rotation or hot guy as long as he stays hot?
Well, there's obviously everything is situational, but of course, it's tough to take a hot guy out of the net. So if a player specifically a goalie is playing well, they're going to earn that net, and that's a big thing for the entire organization is that you've got to earn everything that you're going to get. Of course, a first round draft pick or a high pick is going to get those opportunities maybe before someone else. But then you've got to continue to earn it each and every day. So as far as the goalie rotation goes, clearly if Jesper is with us, it's important that he gets quite a few starts, but his goalie partner is going to be expected to push him each and every day and win hockey games when he's in the net. So as a result, it's going to be whoever's playing the best is going to get the chance to help us win hockey games each night.
Elijah Bond asked about this team's youth and that this coming year's team is going to be even younger than last year's team, which was a young team as well. And he wants to know, do you have a plan, thoughts on how to train this team, especially a young team that hasn't played 72 games in a regular season, much of them yet? What are your thoughts for making sure they get in shape and can manage to sustain themselves throughout a longer season than they're accustomed to playing?
Yeah, that's always a big challenge for young players turning pro. What we really like about a lot of our younger prospects is that they're kind of in their second or third year pro. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of rookie pros, but we've got a lot of guys that have now learned that pro hockey in North America grind. Think about Wallstead and think about Simon Johansson, Damon Hunt, O'Rourke, players like this. They've now been through that at least once, and so they should understand that now. It's usually 20 to 30 games, maybe half the season, that it takes these players to understand how hard the American Hockey League is. So as far as managing that, it's kind of one of those schools of hard knocks types of things where players have to go through it before they can understand it. And we're very hopeful that we've got a lot of young players and prospects that have been through it. And for those new pros, that's part of the process. And that's why you see we continue to sign players, a lot of them to American Hockey League contracts, where we're going to have really good depth. And so we're going to be able to call on some players to help us through those situations when maybe some of the younger players are going through those growing pains, which is all part of the process. And again, it's all part of that fluctuating lineup that happens hour by hour in the American Hockey League.
Final Iowa Wild related question we're going to get to. Then we have some more Brett McLean, the player, questions to get to. This one's from Lee Patton. It's a good one too. His first question: did you receive my resume for any assistant coaching opportunities? ?
I can't recall if I did or not, but I did get quite a few. Sorry if I didn't look it through too closely.
He followed up with, all joking aside, what does a Calder Cup contending Iowa Wild squad look like?
Well, I think I mentioned it in my opening press conference, and just some things that I think of in all good teams, and that's fast, relentless, and discipline. So those are three kind of key words that for sure we're gonna build off this year with our group, and we'll see that. And again, the point that I made earlier, in that having these young prospects push through and really become top American Hockey League players, that's the first step kind of in their development. Well, I guess the first step is learning how to be pros. The second step is pushing through to be top American Hockey League players. And that's what a contending Iowa Wild team looks like, is that, yes, we've got great veterans and players that have been playing pro for a few years, and they're going to be big parts of what we do, and huge leaders, obviously. But it's really all these great young prospects, and we have many of them really starting to push through and be very good American Hockey League players, and then they start to lead the way for us.
From Brett McLean, the Iowa Wild head coach, to Brett McLean, the player. And this question I love, mainly because I don't know the background to it. So someone did their homework. Troy Cook wants to know, in 2009, what did you say to Sidney Crosby to set him off?
I actually didn't say too much. I think it was more the situation in the game. Yeah, that's my 15 minutes of fame. Yeah, it was more, I think we were beating them 4-1 in the game. And their team, I think they were out of the playoffs at the time. They'd hit the skids a little bit. And I think it was just more a situation in the game where he was trying to get his team riled up. And he picked me as the guy to do it with. And I think things worked out okay for him, though. They ended up going on a roll, and they ended up winning the Stanley Cup that year. So I think he did things right, that's for sure. But yeah, my 15 minutes of fame.
One might say, who knows, maybe that was a pivotal moment in the Pittsburgh Penguins season. That is what rallied them to make that run they did. Only time will ever tell on that. My follow-up question on that, do you remember going back to the locker room after that happened and just, was there any kind of banter around, hey, Mac just fought Sidney Crosby?
Oh, that's all it was. It seemed like for the next few weeks was just like, what just happened there? So I think he got like 17 minutes in penalties or whatever it was that night. So our coaches loved it. They thought it was great. And yeah, and then actually we flew to Canada the next day for a road trip in Canada. So obviously with the Canadian hockey media being what it was quite a story for the next week. And yeah, so it was quite the moment in my career.
An excellent question from Troy Cook. This next one comes from Blake Boucher. Favorite player? Did you have a favorite player growing up? Or when I say favorite player, who comes to mind for Brett McLean?
Well, Wayne Gretzky obviously was playing in Western Canada, and that's where I grew up. So he's up there, of course. He's they call him the Great One for a reason, and it was fun to watch him grow up. Obviously, I grew up on the west coast of Canada, close to Vancouver. So Trevor Linden, obviously just first class person. He was right up there and real Canucks icon. And then Wendell Clark was another guy that I loved his game. Great Maple Leaf player and hard nosed and just did everything right. So big Wendell Clark guy.
Probably honed some inner Wendell Clark in that Crosby fight maybe back in the day too.
Well, I could have used it.
Final question for you, and I have no idea where this one's going to go. It could stop short, or we could unravel a lot that you and I could talk about, Brett. From Ryan, he wants to know your favorite Star Wars movie.
Wow, really good. I am a Star Wars guy. So favorite Star Wars movie would have, because they're all so good, I guess would probably have to be Return of the Jedi. I think just so many good moments in that, and I believe the Ewoks were in that one. So
yes,
yeah. So big Return of the Jedi guy, and yeah, definitely Star Wars. I may have some lightsabers in my closet that I pull out with my boys once in a while, and we get into some lightsaber battles. So proud to be a Star Wars fan for sure.
Wow, I'm already thinking about some content ideas between you and I, Brett. Maybe some Star Wars nerding out we can do throughout the course of the season. But that's a great, it's a great way to end it. Brett, this has been great. Thanks so much for parking some time, and we're looking forward to getting up to development camp this weekend. We'll have plenty of content coming our fans' way from that. We'll get to introduce you to some more prospects. But in any event, always a great time with you, Brett, and looking forward to plenty more of these types of interviews along the way here. And thanks again.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ben.